Welcome to the Time for Heroes podcast. On the podcast today, I've got Crispian and Jay Darlington, two of the members of Kula Shaker, who release their new album Wormslayer, comes out on the 30th of January. And we're going to speak about that, but we're going to go back a bit and maybe a wee bit through your career, and then obviously at the end we'll pick your heroes. Just for the listeners as well, Crispian's struggling a bit with man flu and he's gallantly soldiering on, so hats off to him for that.
I'd like a bus card ticket to Dublin, please.
So as I say, guys, what I'd like to do is go back to the start, just a wee bit about your childhoods growing up and how that kind of shaped you into kind of where you are now.
Well, I think, Jay, you should kick off.
Well, I do know I was born at a very early age. Other than that, it's all a bit cloudy. Well, I was nothing special really. I was born in Kent, a place called Sidcup. Don't remember much about it. Well, I suppose what do you want to know about musically stuff that sort of influenced
the biggest, one of the biggest surprises. I didn't know this for years, for a long, long time, is that you were all, and Jay, you and Spud and Bill were all trained as boxers.
It's come in handy over the years.
Yeah, well, it's added to your style as a Hammond player.
Yeah, it sounds like I've got boxing gloves on for sure. Yeah.
So I guess probably in the sense of, was it like a musical? Were you growing up in musical households? Obviously, like we kind of know a bit about your background, Crispian, with your mum and all that, and how life was like for you as a youngster. But I probably more yourself, Jay, because we probably don't hear much about the rest of the band.
I didn't really grow up in a musical household as such. I did have a grandma that played. Allegedly, she played the cinema organ back in the 1930s or whenever it was. And I remember sort of playing the piano as an infant. And actually, I used to play under. She had a grand piano in her front room, small house, but a big piano. And apparently, I don't remember much of this, but apparently I'd be underneath it while she was just playing. So if you've ever sat underneath a piano, it's pretty cacophonous when you're under there and someone's hammering away. And I got up from listening to this once and managed to split my head open and ended up being taken to A&E. So somewhere in my head, there is a fragment of a vintage Steinway piano working its way into my grey matter. Yeah, no, that's my first introduction to the music, I guess. But I was kind of put off the whole thing after that. But yeah, I do remember it tinkling away.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, it's also a generation where everybody, was encouraged to play at least the piano, and everybody had a party piece.
Yeah, the sing song.
Yeah, everyone get up and entertain each other, and even in the pub, people were playing bloody piano.
Pre-internet, we're talking.
Yeah, we're definitely talking pre-internet.
Sometime in the last century.
So, I mean, like talking about band dynamics as well, right? So obviously, like with Jay said his time as a touring member of Oasis and dealing with like the dynamic of the two brothers. So like early inclination of Kula Shaker, obviously Crispian, it started it with yourself, Alonza and Paul, and also at the time your mum's boyfriend. So what's the dynamic like of something like that? The only thing that I can think close to that is the band The Mystery Jets. I think there was a father and son in that. So what's that kind of dynamic like in that setup?
Well, I was kind of brought in because he was a struggling musician, and I was brought in as the young talent for a while. And Alonso played in that band for a short while, and I think Paul played in it for about 4 weeks. But the band we didn't become this band until I'd left home.
Mm-hmm.
I left home when I was 19, and we lived together in a flat in North London, and we became brothers basically. I mean, that and that's kind of how the band has survived. It's turned into a family, but it's the family that you choose rather than the family that you have to deal with or the family that you're given. Some people have great relationships with their family, but often, it's something you have to kind of navigate. So, my family background was really complicated. Lots of marriages, lots of divorces, and lots of show business, which is not a very steady, grounded environment. It's not, it's actually just a silly full of silly people. And the ones that are great are the ones who know that it's a bit of a lark, and the ones who are a pain in the ass are taking it much too seriously. But this band's become a family, and that's how we've managed to survive this long. Is we just kind of gone through it all together, and we chose to stay together rather than having to do it.
Yeah, there isn't many bands that have still got the original lineup like yourselves. Obviously, you had the kind of the break in between, but I mean the last two albums are sounding back to the old days, the original Kula Shaker. So you can tell you have got that magic between you. Like starting out like early on, you won the what is it in the city contest. You were the winners of that, or joint winners with Placebo. So did you find that you had the industry backing for the start off?
Well, it was a bit of an eye opener actually to the industry because there were three winners.
Oh, there was three
So
winners,
yeah, three winners. There was another band called Performance, I think they were called,
right?
and they were looked after by the older Gallagher fella, and yeah, I think he had two or three bands on there. He was betting his chances. But yeah, so that was quite an opener. How can three people like share a football cup? How's that going to work? Yeah, so I thought, oh, I see. There's a bit more to this than meets the eye.
We thought
That's
we were going to have to fight for the tie, and
yeah.
we
Well,
were
that would be
pushing,
handy with the boxing background.
yeah, we were pushing
We
Joe.
should have done a three-legged race or a sack race. That would have done it, I reckon.
And I mean,
We
off
were the
off the back of that though, you signed to Columbia Records, so there was obviously something coming to that then. And
Well,
then
there
that,
was actually the reality was that we'd all played in lots and lots of bands. We when we all lived together, we were all pretty much we were gigging and we were earning a bit of money here and there, but mostly we were on the dole. So we Jay had just slightly older than us. He had kind of become responsible and had a job, and um and we did manage to get a record deal before Columbia, and it only lasted about 9 months. And I think part of the reason we got dropped is our manager at the time was quite young and quite she was quite a star child. And in rather than tell the head of the record company what we needed, she would instruct him with poetry. And I think in the end it just didn't work out. But we managed to have our rent paid for about 6 months, and we got a bit of new equipment, so it wasn't all bad. But it did lead to a period where we all had to question, where you start to panic. You think, oh my God, I'm 21. I'm already over the hill. I'm 21. I still haven't made it, and because I had been trying, since I was about 16, 17.
Mhm.
When's it going to happen? Because I had a job playing for X-Ray Specs when I was 17, and I was
good
thrown
job.
I was thrown in the deep end, yeah, with the legend that is polystyrene. And so when we finally got signed to Columbia and we'd gone through the in the city thing, we did feel like we'd already had a quest, and we'd already survived it. And little did we know that it was just beginning.
Well, I mean, the next couple of years, well, it's like a whirlwind. Obviously, right in the centre of Britpop, you get bands releasing albums every week. I was a teenager at school at the time that Kay came out, and I can mind craft and design class. The teacher let us all bring in cassettes, and everybody used to bring in Oasis and Blur. And the two albums that I brought in was 1977 by Ash and yourselves, Kay. And it was like kind of compared to Oasis and Blur, Kula Shaker, it's all this psychedelicness. And everybody's looking at me like, what's this guy? I think they expected me to come in wearing flares and stuff like that, flowery shirts. But that was like, I felt like I was introducing my class to your music. So I felt like a trailblazer is then. In that kind of Britpop scene, how did you feel you fitted in there?
Well,
Well, we didn't really, did we?
yeah, no, I think a lot of bands felt like they didn't fit in, but they pretended they did. Whereas I was speaking to the girl from the woman or the mum from Sleeper,
The lady.
the lady from recently. Yeah, Louise, very nice. But we were talking about the good old days, and our paths didn't really cross. But we nearly got a record deal with their label, and we were talking about that, and she was saying that a lot of the bands didn't feel like they fitted in. A lot of them felt like they were outsiders, but because the press at that time was really antagonistic. It was all trying to play everybody off against each other to make a big story. I think the fact that we were separate was a bit more visible, a bit more obvious. That with the psychedelic and with our obvious influence from George Harrison and India and the mystical thing that we really wore proudly. But we did like the whole approach to storming the business and doing something different. And we liked the fact that there was all this mystical psychedelic stuff happening on the radio, because we really did sort of let off a flare in the middle of a Britpop party, and it was we were really grateful to be able to do it.
I was speaking to my big sister. She was up on New Year's Day for her dinner, and I was telling her that I was going to be interviewing you, and she said, "Oh, tell them to play Hush. That's her best song." And I'm like, "Caroline, you do realise that's a cover?" So,
Cover of a cover.
so did covering that, was that like an albatross in your back as such, because everybody loved it. I think it was one of your best charting singles, but obviously it wasn't your own. Did that kind of rankle you?
No, you can't complain when you're top of the charts. No, I think that would be a bit absurd. It was just unexpected, really. We loved playing that song, and we used to play it if a gig needed sprucing up, if we thought the audience was a bit sleepy, and I think we did it as a kind of a one-off, really, and we weren't expecting it to be.
Hmm.
It was huge all over the world. It was a massive surprise. I think that was the main thing we felt. It was like,
That teaches you to have fun.
yeah.
So yeah, so there's all that going on. Obviously, you played Nebworth as well. I mean, as much as you maybe did feel like outsiders, you were welcomed into that, probably the biggest gigs at that time. Another of the bands that played, I think they played the same day as yourself, as Cast, who I'm hoping to speak to later on. I spoke to John a couple of years ago when the last album came out. So looking back, obviously, these two bands were out at the same time then. You's both released your last album, February 2024, and yous are both releasing your album on the same day this year. So what's the script there? Is there a wee rivalry between yourself and Cast?
We're stalking them.
Yeah, we just asked them what day they're going to put their albums out, and then we go, "Oh yeah, we're doing that as well." No, it's yeah, so that's just picked up on the psychic. So, get into their minds and find out when they're doing it. No, I don't know why that is. That's quite interesting, isn't it?
John Powers is just really, he's very psychic, clearly. He's just beaming in. He's making mischief.
Reading the tea leaves as we speak.
Yeah, so that's like the sort of chart battle. Like nowadays, like back then, there was all this big hyperbole about chart battles. Nowadays, two bands like this releasing an album on the same day, it's not so much a battle because the fans are going to buy both albums anyway. I'm going to buy. I think there's about 4 or 5 albums coming out the day your album comes out that I'm going to be into. So nowadays, compared to back then, do you feel less pressure to kind of to release an album? Is it more about kind of the enjoyment and what you are going to get out of it than a chart position?
The charts are just a kind of a mystery to me and to I don't know what they mean anymore. And even, my kids or younger music lovers, it's not really about that. So, I think it means something within the industry. But yeah, there is a rivalry. I mean, you can feel a rivalry, but it can be a healthy rivalry. You want to hear good music. You want to be in amongst good people, and and if you go on stage with somebody, certainly you want to give them a kind of follow this, and hopefully it raises everyone's game. I mean, you look at the classic band lineups of like Monterey Pop or something. Everyone's trying to blow everyone else off the stage, and as much as there was camaraderie and appreciation. You can see how competitive it was, but it was healthy.
Bloody show-offs.
Yeah, a bunch of show-offs.
So, K came out 96, and then the follow-up album 99, which had Sound of Drums on it, Shower Your Love as well. Two absolute classics. I think I had both of them in CD single when I was at college. I used to walk about with one of the Walkman CD things that are fucking massive when you think about it now.
Wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
Wheelbarrow to carry
it a bit. So, but then after that, kind of, the music started to decline. Kind of, obviously, the music industry at that point, like 99 into the 2000s, it was the kind of acoustic-led guitar bands. So you had like Travis and Coldplay, and then the American bands, Linkin Park and all that. That kind of music changed, the environment changed until the Strokes came and kick-started guitar music, so to speak. So what was kind of the thoughts of the band in that period, like that middle period before the last album? Obviously, you done your stuff with the Jivas and stuff like that, Crispian. You were away with Oasis. So, what was the kind of thoughts? Did you think the band would get back together in the original lineup form?
I remember, spending quite a few years feeling very lost and confused. I mean, to be honest, music is something that's happening as a way to sort of when it becomes a job at one point, and that can be fine if you're one of those kind of technical musicians. You're a jobbing musician, you're a craftsperson, and you're doing music to order, and a lot of those musicians that do that are brilliant. But if you're one of these sort of intuitive songwriting people or in a band, music is an expression of where you are, and music just had become associated with stress and pressure. And so I was trying to find a way to keep playing music where I didn't have to deal with all of that, and the only way was to go indie, just to start again. So I'd tried out a little 3-piece, and I'd done some recordings that hadn't really kind of gone anywhere. But when Kula Shaker started making music again after that kind of very long lost weekend, we just started from scratch. It was like, just any of the fans who were left who remembered us We were playing for them, and we were making records for us, and it was actually really not easy at all, but it needed to be done because we'd gone so far into the abyss of
Hmm.
music business, which is like a food waste. It just churns you up like a sort of food waste grinder. And then the music business itself had collapsed as well. It was like the Twin Towers coming down. So even if we'd wanted to go and get a record deal, it wouldn't have happened because the music business was in free fall and everyone was running around on fire, screaming, "What's going on?" So where we are now with Wormslayer and Natural Magic and Jay coming back and this whole journey, it's very long, and we've had families and we've had huge breaks in our career as well, just to have kids and have another life and to do other jobs.
Well, this is the thing. I'm pretty sure it was maybe Mark Morris for the Blue Tones that I spoke to, and he said that he wasn't sure that the fan base would still be there. And I said, no, I said, but we're all at that age where it's probably wise to have a break and let everybody go away, like the band and the fans to go away and bring up their families, and then we come back 15, 20 years later and we're ready to kind of take it on from where it left off. So, I mean, like, the stuff that he's have brought out, the last few albums have been. I mind seeing yous on YouTube on the Chris Evans show. What was it? I think he's done like a cover of Happy Mondays or something.
Yeah.
It was just so refreshing, but it's that way where you're like, I forgot about them. I forgot about this band. And the magic was still there. And I'd imagine within months the audience is still there. The audience is back. So I mean that must feel kind of, you must feel a sense of kind of worth when you go on tour and you see the packed I was going to say arenas, the packed gig venues
I was
every
going to say
night.
job centre.
Because obviously, I mean, I manage a band, or I previously managed a band, that obviously a lot younger than me, 20 years younger than me, but the lead guitarist, he's a big fan of yourself. He went to see you in Glasgow on the last tour. He's raging
Oh,
because I
nice.
wouldn't let him come on the day and speak to you. But I mean, like, you're an absolute hero to him. So that's somebody that's been passed down for his dad to him. So
Oh, that's great. I
do
was
you
going to say
feel?
it's quite good seeing. It's lovely seeing fans that you recognise that are our age now, and they've
Mhm.
brought their kids that have got their old T-shirts on from back in the day. It's like you going down the front row going, "Oh look," and they'd be like going down in sizes, kind of.
And it's
So
also
But yeah,
lovely to see that the print hasn't worn off, and
yeah,
that was
exactly.
that
Yeah,
was
good
quality
quality they were. Good '90s, you know,
swag.
elastic.
So, for anybody that's swayed on whether to buy the new album, um, can you sell it for us? Obviously, I've got my thoughts on it, but basically, to me, it sounds like the full 60s bottled into every element of the 60s in a record for me. How would you describe Wormslayer?
Well,
Where
you
do
know,
you start?
what did you just say, Jay?
Where do you start?
Yeah, it's a rich meal.
It's
I
got all
think,
of our hats, isn't it? I guess.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. You make an album and then you finish it and then it becomes somebody else's, and actually someone else's take on it gives you a whole new perspective that you wouldn't have had. I mean, the thing I always say is that when we write and record, the first audience is always us. So if Jay's smiling, if Paul's having fun, then we know it's working, and we got to get everybody on side. And every now and again, we'll try something, and somebody won't be very keen on it, and everything. It will all just fizzle out. And if everyone's on board, and then we go in the studio and people are getting off on it, then that's really who we make it for. And then obviously the next audience is when it leaves the room. But we are serious 60s heads. I mean, we always were, and that was what bonded us originally when we all hooked up when we were kids, because we could
Yeah.
spot each other across the room. because we got the haircut or the boots or whatever. He looks like, he looks like Brian Jones, or he thinks he's, in the zombies. I mean, it's all it is a tribal thing, but the music at that time, it is the golden age. So if you're playing this kind of psychedelic rock and roll, you've got to go back to those roots, and that's where the book was written. That and then obviously when we were 16, 17 and starting to play music, bands like the Stone Roses, they were also listening to those records, so we were following them and being influenced by them.
Yeah.
So it does all go back to there. It does, for sure.
So, I mean, my favourite track at the moment, because it's changed massively in the last month or so that I've been listening to the album, but Broke as Folk, the organ on that, Jay, is fantastic. I'd to stop myself a couple of times as that's the Doors. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mega
but it's
impressed
like,
with that.
oh, bless you, thanks. Yeah, I used two fingers on that. It's a first for me. Yeah, it was nice to be to go on, off you go, let rip. So it was just yeah,
Have
just
you
fun
have
as
you
well.
got have you got the whole album, Martin?
Yeah, I've been listening to it for the last month or so.
Ah,
It's actually obviously when Katie sends me over, I think you get like 5 listens and then they take the access away. So the amount of times I've emailed her and said, can you give me access again? I need to listen to it again.
Oh, I'm glad
So
you like it.
because the plumber turned up.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it is absolutely fantastic. And with that, then what's going on? You're touring as well, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we've got some business. Sorry, up to you.
yeah. No, after you, we're going to be busy. We're going to be busy this year. We come to Glasgow in February, early February.
I think I'm going to come to that gig. I think me and the wee guitarist that I was talking about, I
Oh
promised
yeah,
him I'd take him to see
oh
you.
Oh,
yeah,
come say hello.
yeah. I love the fruit market. It's a great room.
Hmm.
It's nice to be in town, and we're bringing our friend from San Francisco, the Mad Alchemist, who's like he's kind of brought the whole oil projection thing into the 21st century with these super crazy lenses and projectors, so he can sort of make a whole room feel like a sort of a psychedelic womb. So you can become reborn at the end of the show, which is a little bit less messy than the first birth, but it's going to be a lot of fun in that place. Yeah, we're going to do a few, and then I know we're going to be coming back a little bit in the summer, and there'll be gigs towards the end of the year as well, because it's our 30th anniversary.
And then what's the plans after that? Any plans for to get back in the studio for a new record, or is that well off in the future?
I think we're experimenting with this whole old school approach to just keep putting an album out every year, because all our favorite bands did it. They were very industrious and creative, and it worked for the Beatles because they went from "She Loves You" to "Tomorrow Never Knows" in 3 years.
It's pretty good going.
But
Really
that's what I feel about this album. You can do that with an album. As I say, you can span the full 60s in one album. So you're further ahead than McCartney and Co. You're meant to speak to them and show them how to do it.
That's
I'm
it,
sure you'd
right.
love that.
So can I, on that note, then obviously I don't want to keep you too long, especially yourself, Chris. I can see you kind of struggling throughout. Um, so
Sponsored by Lemsip.
So the last part of the podcast, obviously, it's God Time for Heroes, as it says here. I asked my guests to pick 4 heroes to come for dinner. Why they're your heroes? What would you cook for them? Dead or alive, musicians, sports people, film stars, whatever you want. So I just fire away.
Jay's definitely going first. I can see he's itching.
Churchill, Vincent Price, Fanny Craddock, and Brian Auger.
Right, and
And
why?
that's all I could think of. And I'd probably cook vegetarian or vegan whelks. I think it's probably what we'd have for dinner.
Right.
And maybe a nice Chianti. I'll nick that from somewhere else. That's a tough one, isn't it, really? I think Boris Karloff might be a good one.
I know my mum, it's a similar type of question. Well, my mum said she went to see a medium on Brighton Pier in the 60s. And she was on her own. She was killing some time before she went to see somebody. And there was a woman who would actually speak as the person that you summoned. So I'd like to talk to my Aunt Mabel or whoever. And she'd say, yes, my dear, I'm here. Talk to me, you know. My mum went in, she said, I'd like to speak to Winston Churchill. This medium had to do Winston Churchill.
That's brilliant.
She said it was wonderful.
Would you like him drunk or not drunk, sir?
It was well worth the money.
I love shit like that. That's brilliant.
After a long boozy lunch. Excuse me. I would do some heroes that I've definitely not met, that would have liked to have met, which are gone now. I never met George Harrison. Would love to have met George. But you know, I did exchange some letters with him, and we had a bit of exchange, a correspondence. But
Which letters did you exchange? B and K.
We did exchange the letter K, of course.
Have you still got those letters?
You know what? I treasured them, and the missus threw them out. She didn't. She thought it was. She got it mixed up with some bills, which is what she always does with the bills.
It's the parchment.
Yeah. And then I would love to have met Richie Blackmore. That was my first guitar hero, was Richie Blackmore. He was the guy I was, you know, got me obsessed with the guitar. And you know, he's really into the whole medieval thing. And he's really into elves, and
He's got to be all right.
he's good. And he wears, you know, long, you know, knee-high suede boots and plays gypsy music now.
Knickerbockers.
It'd be such fun. We could have like a goulash or something, a vegetarian goulash, I think.
Oh, good choice. What wine would you have with that?
I don't know, something ancient. I know the filmmaker Andrew Birkin. Jane Birkin's brother is a filmmaker, Andrew Birkin, and a writer. And he's a great guy, and he's very eccentric. And he was one of my mum's first boyfriend. And I went to visit him once when I was a kid. I was about 16, and I just popped by his house to say hello. And he was in his office writing, and he was sitting with a bottle that he had got in an auction of a bottle of port. No, sorry, a bottle of brandy that had been retrieved from a wreck from the 17th century. He'd bought it in an auction, and he was sitting there trying to enjoy this pirate's brandy. And it tasted like absolute shit. But, I mean, it was worth it, you know, just to savor the history. So I would maybe put that on the menu. I'll bring Andrew along, Andrew Birkin, Richie Blackmore.
That's a good dinner, I reckon. That.
Who was that? George. Bit of a sausage
George,
party. Yeah. I need a girl.
You can borrow Fanny Craddock if you like.
I'll borrow your Fanny.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for that.
That's brilliant. As I say, all the best with the album coming out. It's gonna absolutely smash it. As I say, I've been listening. I've been telling everybody about it. It must be really annoying. See, being able to. I've been listening to this album, and people say, "Oh, what does it sound like?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't let you hear it, because if I let you hear it, then I'll never get any more albums
You should
again."
beatbox. You should beatbox it for them.
Well, I could give it a go, I suppose. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
I think
Do it
that's
in the medium of interpretive dance. That always helps.
I think I'm past that these days. My knees wouldn't be able to handle
Nonsense.
it. But so all the best with the album coming out. All the best with the tour. Looking forward to seeing you in Glasgow. If I get the chance, we'll come up and say hi, man.
Yeah, do, man.
Speak to you, man.
Yeah, we'll get you thrown out. Don't worry.
I've never been thrown at the old fruit market, but I think I hold the record for getting thrown at the Barrowlands. I think I've been chucked out of there over 10 times.
Oh, that's good. Well done.
But I'll be my best behaviour for seeing you guys. But absolute pleasure coming on the day, Crispian. I hope the flu gets better. I hope you're fighting fit for our album release day.
It'll be good.
Weak in the iron lung, he'll be fine.
But absolute pleasure speaking to you guys.
Thanks,
Cheers,
thanks,
nice one.
Cheers, thanks. See you, Jay.
All the best.
Bye.
See you later.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, please contact me on the email timeforheroespod@gmail.com, or you can get me on Instagram at Time for Heroes Podcast. Thanks very much. We'll be back soon with another episode.